So this is a short story I'm writing called The Solitary. So let's look at it real quick. Alright. So, Mark, a 30-year-old man, was condemned to solitary confinement for treason against the Federated States of Russia. After the rising of the Second Soviet Union, all of Europe would bow down to President Irina Fyodor, a stunning young woman in her 50s. Marcuola, said the judge, you will be given two choices. I'm going to give you the easy end of the sentence and give you 100 years of solitary confinement, or you will be sentenced to death by stabbing of President Irina Fyodor or herself. Your decision must be made before a final verdict is reached by the Soviet Council. Mark turned to his lawyer. Wouldn't it be great to spit at the woman I hate while being stabbed to death? His lawyer argued. I'd suggest taking the easy end of the bargain. The judge turned to Mark. Mr. Yola, have we reached a decision? Mark stood. Yes, Your Honor. And what may that be? Mark's lawyer stood. We've decided to take the 100-year sentence to complete solitary confinement. The council will decide the proper conditions for this sentence, the judge said, letting the council whisper amongst themselves. Proper note to state that the average lifespan at this time for a human is around 140 years. After the council reached a decision, one of the members whispered the verdict into the judge's left ear, who proudly announced the sentence. Marcuola, you are sentenced to 100 years in solitary confinement at the Northern Torture Facility of Belarus. After your sentence, you are to be put to death by firing squad. No final meal may be requested. No final requests will be made. March 17th, 21:55. Day 1. It wasn't really all that bad. They kept the conditions clean. Looked like an old parking garage to me. Room's dimensions were 10 meters by 10 meters by 10 meters, much larger than any house I had been given back home. The room smelled quite nice. There was that low hum of a radiator and water running through pipes. The concrete walls matched the greyness of the concrete floors. Ceilings were made of a fuzz-like material that prevented fires. The northern Siberians called it the fire stopper, but it just looked like someone sprayed a fire extinguisher on its spill beams and called it a day. Overall, the place was furnished. I only had a small library of Russian books. This wouldn't keep me busy as I failed Russian in school. There was a metal cot in the middle of the room, bolted down into the concrete. The place was kept dark, only one dim light hanging above the cot. In a corner, there were red and yellow pipes leading to a sink. Underneath that sink, there was a metal tube that we screwed into the faucet and placed into a 50-liter bucket. Although I wouldn't call it a bucket, the cylinder was heavy and took the appearance of a rectangular prism with its sides rounded off. There was a curtain that sealed off 1 square meter of space at the end of my shoulders, or ended at my shoulders. There was also a toilet beneath the sink, a little hole where I could take a shit while someone watched. It'd be more entertaining for the guard than for me. In that room, there was a small bench that had seen better days, along with a door that appeared to be 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. When I opened it, there was a little pamphlet inside, one side in English and the other in Russian. The compartment had another door, but I doubt it could be opened while I had this one open. On the other door, there appeared to be a peephole. The compartment must have only been half as deep, measuring an estimated 15 centimeters. Inside the pamphlet, there was a list of rules and regulations I must follow, along with meal times and search times. There was a small clock plugged into the bookshelf, although it was on 24-hour time. It was a square metal clock that looked like something out of a scene from Fallout. The glass was either tinted or the brightness of the letters was tuned to a lower setting. Jet lag to Belarus would take a day to get adjusted to, considering I'd be here for another 100 years. It felt cold in the room. The only thing I had was a neatly stacked pile of clothes at the foot of the bed. In total, there were 10 complete outfits, each labeled with different numbers. I was wearing outfit 3 out of 11. Another thing in the pamphlet was laundry days, when I would need to pass my clothes through the compartment. I could see cameras at the top corners of the room along with 5 meters up from the edges of the walls. A camera also hung from the night in the middle of the room. Instructions were placed on the pillow for common complaints and requests. They'd send me a piece of paper and a pen with rules on translating Russian if I left the book face down in the compartment. I didn't think that it would come in handy. So I found a series of books learning Russian. I've been doing a whole lot of learning here in my time. I almost felt better treated back at my home. Solitary confinement felt like hell compared to this. But I'd be spending 100 years alone in this room. My remaining life would be cut short by Irina or whoever the next president was. For the next 100 years, it'd be me and my thoughts. April 15th, 21:55, day 30. How I longed to see the sun. I felt lonely. I had written this to whoever was on the other side of the wall. In the last 30 days, I'd become fluent in Russian. I didn't know how to speak it yet, but I was on track with writing it. The letters all made more sense when I could compare them to any other letter or symbol to the English language. But for now, the only communication I received was a tranquilizer dart to the shoulder every 3 days so that the search crew could come in, clean up the place, and left it as it was on day one. Nothing looked different except for the books being replaced if I wrote notes in them or my drawings erased. I sighed. What I wouldn't give for a weapon. The bed was made of some kind of strong steel, and everything that could potentially kill me had been removed. I had 72 hours. I could surely find a way out of my miserable life. I hated this solitary confinement. I wished of nothing but to put an end to my life. I wished to see someone, even if I was immediately killed. I tried to request some things I knew would never work, and they sent me a reply asking me how stupid I was being. The answer would always be the same. I'd crumple up the paper and mutter, "Fuck you," to the camera before getting in bed. I'd either be interrupted by a loud bell signaling something in a compartment or banging on the ceiling. The ceiling didn't have concrete for the ceiling. It mainly just air ducts and steel beams that covered in the fire stopper 8 meters up. No one could climb the ceiling to escape. The sheet on the ceiling looks like aluminum based on its reflectivity. It sounded thinner whenever someone banged on it. If I tried to escape through the ceiling, I'd get shot with a tranquilizer and have grease poured on my hands. So they did every time they came in. Shot me, put me to bed, poured grease on my arms. My arms would get blisters and show signs of second-degree burns whenever they did this. The water from the faucet came out too warm to drink, but too cold to bathe in. It also tasted like Dasani with heavy amounts of iron.